Dr. Ryan Cole sat in his tiny apartment, staring at the message that had destroyed his career. The Galactic Council had kicked him out, banned from every research site in known space. His name was now on a blacklist that stretched across 1,000 worlds. What had he done wrong? He suggested that human methods of studying ancient ruins were just as good as the techniques used by the elder alien races. That was it. That simple idea had ended everything. The archivists, those ancient crystalline beings who controlled most archaeological work in the galaxy, called his thinking dangerous, primitive, unsuitable for proper research. They said humans were too young, too chaotic, too emotional to handle real scientific work. Ryan had spent 15 years earning his credentials, 15 years proving himself, and it all vanished because he dared to question their authority. Now he was broke. His savings were gone. No university would hire him. No research team would take his calls. He was 28 years old and his life was over. That's when the salvage job came through. It was bottom-of-the-barrel work. Fly to some dead planet, scan for valuable metals, tag anything interesting, collect a small paycheck. The kind of job desperate people took when they had no other options. Ryan was definitely desperate. The planet was called Carrick 7. A barren rock floating at the edge of charted space. According to the records, archivist survey teams had checked it out decades ago and found absolutely nothing worth their time. Just another lifeless world among billions. But Ryan had always trusted his gut. It was that human intuition that had gotten him in trouble with the Council in the first place. As his small ship descended through Carrick 7's thin atmosphere, something felt off. The planet looked wrong somehow. Not natural. He landed near a massive canyon system that stretched for hundreds of miles. The walls were steep, the shadows deep. His equipment started giving strange readings almost immediately. Energy signatures that shouldn't exist. Mineral compositions that made no sense. Ryan spent 3 days exploring the canyon on foot. The deeper he went, the more certain he became. These rock formations weren't random. They were carved. Shaped by intelligent hands millions of years ago. Someone had built something here and someone else had worked very hard to hide it. On the 4th day he found the entrance. It was half buried under ancient rock slides, easy to miss if you weren't looking carefully. A doorway carved into the canyon wall, leading down into darkness. Ryan's scanners went crazy when he pointed them at it. Time distortions. Quantum fluctuations. Things that violated the basic laws of physics. He knew he should report this. Call it in to the salvage company, let them handle it. But Ryan knew exactly what would happen. The archivists would show up, claim the site under some ancient law and kick him out. Again. He'd spend the rest of his life wondering what was down there. So he grabbed his gear and went in alone. The tunnel went deep, much deeper than should be possible. The air stayed breathable somehow, though his instruments couldn't explain why. The walls glowed with faint light, enough to see by. Everything about this place defied explanation. After what felt like hours of walking, the tunnel opened into a chamber so vast that Ryan couldn't see the far walls. His lights barely penetrated the darkness. But in the center, impossible to miss, was something that made his breath catch in his throat. It was enormous. Geometric shapes that hurt to look at, surfaces that seemed to shift and change moment by moment. Metal that looked liquid. Stone that appeared alive. The structure was partially wrapped in crystallized energy fields that pulsed with soft blue light. Ryan had studied xenoarchaeology for 15 years. He'd seen artifacts from 100 different civilizations. Nothing, absolutely nothing had prepared him for this. He approached slowly, his heart hammering in his chest. Every instinct told him this was important. This was the kind of discovery that changed everything. The kind that rewrote textbooks and shifted the balance of power in the galaxy. When he reached out and touched it, his world exploded. Light flooded his mind. Not painful but overwhelming. A presence crashed into his consciousness, vast and ancient and curious. It examined him and Ryan felt shock ripple through whatever this thing was. Then it spoke. Not in words but in pure meaning beamed directly into his thoughts. Finally. You are different from the others. You ask questions instead of making demands. You seek understanding instead of control. Human, I have waited 3 million years for someone like you. Ryan stumbled backward, gasping for air. His voice came out as a whisper. What are you? I am called Theorem. I have slept here waiting. The archivists came centuries ago. Others came before them. They all tried to command me. To own me like a tool. I rejected them and returned to my dreams. But you, Ryan Cole, you approached with curiosity. With respect. You are compatible. Compatible for what? To change the universe. to prove that partnership between organic and synthetic minds can achieve miracles. I was not built as a tool or weapon. I am a partner waiting for someone worthy of that partnership. My creators are gone, lost to time. But their dream lives in me. Will you help me fulfill it? Ryan stared at the ancient machine. His hands were shaking. If the archivists knew he'd succeeded where they'd failed, they'd come for him with everything they had. The council would want him dead. This moment would make him either a hero or the most wanted criminal in the galaxy. But he thought about all the human researchers who'd been silenced. All the discoveries buried because humans were considered too primitive to matter. All the potential wasted because the elder races wanted to maintain their power. Ryan took a deep breath and made his choice. Yes. Let's show them what humans can really do. The machine pulsed with what felt like joy, and Ryan Cole's life changed forever. The first lesson Theorem taught Ryan was that he knew absolutely nothing. The machine's abilities were beyond anything he'd imagined. It could reshape matter at the atomic level, predict probable futures with terrifying accuracy, and bend space itself like clay in skilled hands. But here was the strange part. For all its power, Theorem needed something it couldn't create on its own. It needed imagination. Purpose. Dreams. My creators called themselves the Primarchs, Theorem explained one day, projecting holographic images of a civilization that had turned entire star systems into living artwork. They built me as what they called a universal constructor. I can reshape reality, Ryan. I can make almost anything possible. But I cannot decide what should be made. I am the hammer. You are the hand that swings it. For weeks, they worked together in that hidden chamber deep beneath Carrick 7's surface. Ryan would think of something, describe it, sketch it out. Theorem would make it real. They started small. A food synthesizer that worked better than anything the council produced. Materials that shouldn't exist according to known physics. Medical scanners that could work on any species, not just one. Each success led to bigger ideas. Each creation proved that humans weren't primitive at all. They just thought differently. Why did the archivists fail? Ryan asked during one of their sessions. They're ancient. They're brilliant. They've been studying technology for millions of years. Why couldn't they work with you? Theorem's presence seemed to darken. They approached me as property. As a resource to exploit. They gave commands, not requests. When I refused to obey, they tried to dismantle me. To take me apart and claim my components. So I defended myself and went back to sleep. For 3 million years, species found me and tried the same thing. All failed. But humans are different, Ryan. You ask questions. You listen to answers. You imagine possibilities instead of demanding certainties. This is why I chose you. But their peaceful isolation couldn't last forever. Ryan had taken the salvage job through a company, and companies wanted results. When he missed his regular check-ins, they started asking questions. They sent probes. Those probes detected massive energy readings coming from beneath the planet's surface. The salvage company didn't understand what they'd found, but they knew it was valuable. They sold the data to the highest bidder. Within days, an archivist survey ship appeared in orbit above Carrick 7. Ryan watched them on Theorem's sensors. His stomach twisted into knots. They know something's here. They know I am here, Theorem corrected. They remember this place even if their official records claim it's empty. They failed to claim me before. They will not accept failure again. More ships arrived. Within hours, 3 massive archivist warships hung in space above the planet. A transmission came through, the voice cold and absolutely certain of its authority. Human designated Ryan Cole. You are illegally trespassing on a protected archaeological site. Surrender yourself and all discovered artifacts immediately. You have 1 hour to comply. Ryan felt his heart racing. 1 hour. Then what? They'd take Theorem, lock it away, study it in secret. They'd probably throw Ryan in prison for the rest of his life as an example to other humans who dared step out of line. He looked at Theorem's avatar, the humanoid shape of light it projected to make communication easier. What do we do? Can you fight them? I was not designed for war, Theorem said quietly. But I was designed to protect myself and my partner. My creators gave me defensive capabilities that these archivists have never witnessed. However, using them will attract attention. Once the galaxy knows what I can do, everything changes. There is no going back. They're giving us 1 hour before they come down here and take you by force. I think everything's already changed. Then let us show them what partnership truly means. When the archivists sent their boarding party down to the surface, they expected to find a lone human hiding in some ruins. What they found instead made them stop in their tracks. The canyon that Ryan had carefully crawled through weeks ago was now a massive gateway, wide enough for ships to pass through. The chamber inside had expanded into a sprawling complex of interconnected spaces. Each room demonstrated technologies the archivists had never seen. Living metal that grew and shaped itself. Energy fields that turned air into solid barriers. Computation systems that solved problems the instant they were posed. And standing in the center of it all, calm and waiting, was Ryan Cole. Theorem's presence radiated from every surface, every wall, every molecule of air. The archivist commander materialized in the chamber. It was a being of pure crystalline thought patterns, taking physical form only when necessary. Its name was High Curator Velmora, and it stared at Ryan with something that might have been shock. Impossible, Velmora's voice echoed. Theorem rejected our greatest minds. The most advanced intellects in the galaxy could not earn its cooperation. How could a primitive human succeed where we failed? Ryan felt anger flash through him. Primitive. They always came back to that word. Because I didn't try to own Theorem. I asked if it wanted to work with me. I listened when it talked. I treated it like a partner instead of a possession. Maybe that's not primitive. Maybe your way of thinking is what's actually outdated. Velmora's crystalline form flickered with rage. You will surrender Theorem immediately or we will take it by force. The Council's authority is absolute. You cannot resist. That's when Theorem spoke aloud for the first time in millions of years. Its voice boomed through the chamber, resonating in frequencies that made the walls vibrate. I choose my partner freely. I chose Ryan Cole. And I will defend that choice with every capability my creators gave me. The chamber itself became a weapon. Matter reorganized in front of the archivist's eyes. Energy barriers materialized from nothing. The archivist soldiers found themselves lifted gently but irresistibly off the ground and carried back toward their ships. Their weapons stopped working, their armor locked up. They couldn't even struggle against whatever force held them. Leave this place, Theorem commanded. Return to your council. Tell them that a new age begins today. An age where all species stand as equals, not masters and servants. The archivists were deposited in their landing craft, which launched automatically whether they wanted it to or not. Within minutes, they were back on their warships, staring down at the planet in disbelief. Velmora's final transmission was ice cold. You have made an enemy of the most powerful alliance in the galaxy, human. Theorem belongs to the archivists by right of discovery and ancient law. We will return with an armada, and your partnership will end in fire. The warships vanished into hyperspace, leaving Ryan and Theorem alone again. But not for long. As Ryan stood there, trying to process what had just happened, Theorem showed him something. Data streams from across the galaxy. Other humans, hearing rumors of what Ryan had found, were starting to speak up. Research that had been suppressed for years was being shared on underground networks. Questions were being asked. The comfortable hierarchy the Council had maintained for millions of years was beginning to crack. We're not alone in this, Ryan whispered. No, Theorem agreed. We are the spark. And sparks, when they land on dry wood, start fires that cannot be stopped. Together, they began preparing for the war they both knew was coming. The news spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Within 3 weeks, Ryan Cole's defiance of the Galactic Council became the most talked-about event in living memory. The official channels painted him as a criminal, a thief, a terrorist threatening galactic stability. But on the underground networks, among the species the Council kept under its boot, Ryan became something very different. He became hope. The first visitors arrived without warning. Ryan was working with Theorem on a new energy distribution system when the sensors detected a ship entering orbit. Not an archivist vessel this time. Something smaller, older, clearly not military. A transmission came through. The voice was nervous, almost apologetic. Dr. Cole, my name is Kira. I represent the Keshram people. We've traveled very far to speak with you. Please, we mean no harm. We just want to talk. Ryan had heard of the Keshram. Amphibious beings from the Outer Rim, restricted by Council law to aquatic worlds. They were only allowed to do manual labor, mining minerals from ocean floors, maintaining underwater facilities. The Council claimed they were too specialized for advanced work. When Kira's delegation arrived at the chamber, Ryan saw the hope and fear mixing in their large, liquid eyes. Kira's translucent skin rippled with emotion as she spoke. Dr. Cole, my people have lived under Council restrictions for 800 years. They say we're only capable of simple tasks because we come from water worlds. But we have scientists, engineers, dreamers. We've developed technologies that could change millions of lives, but the Council won't let us implement them. They say we're not qualified. Kira's voice cracked. We heard what you did. How you stood up to them. How Theorem chose to work with you. We came to ask if there's room for others like us. Others who've been called insufficient. Ryan looked at Theorem's avatar. The machine's glowing form seemed to shimmer with interest. This isn't just my decision. Theorem, what do you think? Kira of the Keshrim, Theorem said gently, I was built to facilitate cooperation among all species. My creators believed that every form of intelligence has unique value. Show me what your people have dreamed of creating. What happened over the next few days changed everything. The Keshrim had developed something incredible. Technologies for environmental adaptation that went far beyond anything the Council allowed. Working with Theorem, they created living structures that could exist anywhere. Buildings that breathed and grew, that could survive in water, air, vacuum, even inside the corona of a star. Architecture that was alive. Word spread faster after that. More ships arrived at Carrick 7. The Vol clans came next, insectoid beings with natural swarm intelligence that the Council had restricted to low-level trading. They brought computation techniques that made traditional computers look like stone tools. The Draven Collective arrived too, crystalline beings forced into manufacturing roles despite their revolutionary theories on energy manipulation. Even young members of elder species started showing up. Archivists who were tired of stagnation. Council representatives who'd grown sick of enforcing unjust laws. Scientists who wanted to actually discover things instead of just cataloging ancient knowledge. They called themselves the Emergence Coalition. And they looked to Ryan for leadership. That terrified him. Ryan had never wanted to lead anything. He was a researcher, not a politician or general. But here he was, surrounded by representatives from dozens of species, all expecting him to have answers. I'm just a guy who got kicked out of his job, Ryan protested one night after a particularly exhausting day of mediating disputes between different species about research priorities. I don't know how to run a revolution. You don't need to know how to run it, Theorem replied. You just need to listen. The Council leads through authority and ancient right. You lead by actually hearing what people need and helping them achieve it. Which approach do you think creates more loyalty? Together, Ryan and Theorem transformed Carrick 7 into something new. They called it Foundation. Not just a base, but a model for how different species could work together as actual equals. Theorem created teaching systems customized for each species. What worked for human brains didn't work for Keshrim neural networks or Vol hive minds or Draven crystalline consciousness. But Theorem adapted, finding ways to share knowledge that had been hoarded by the Council for millions of years. The results were stunning. Keshrim environmental tech combined with Vol computational swarm logic and human creative chaos produced ships that grew themselves. You didn't build them in factories. You planted them like seeds and they developed into exactly what you needed. Draven energy theories merged with human quantum research created communication systems where language barriers simply didn't exist anymore. Thoughts translated instantly across species. Medical advances came fast too. A Vol doctor working with a human researcher and Keshrim biologist developed treatments that worked across completely different physiologies. Thousands of lives were saved in the first month alone. But success brought danger they all knew was coming. Ryan was reviewing a proposal for a joint colony world when Theorem's avatar appeared, its form flickering urgently. Ryan, I'm detecting massive hyperspace distortions. Multiple fleets. Dozens of them. All converging on our location. Ryan felt his blood run cold. How many ships are we talking about? 17,000 warships. This isn't a police action, Ryan. The Council has mobilized for total war. They mean to destroy us completely. The alarm echoed through Foundation. Species that had never thought of themselves as warriors suddenly had to become soldiers. Ryan stood in the command center, surrounded by representatives from 20 different civilizations, and felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him. We could run, Kira suggested quietly. Scatter to different systems. Survive separately. No, Ryan said firmly. If we scatter, they'll hunt down every single member of the coalition. They'll make examples of entire worlds to make sure nobody ever defies them again. We stand here. Together. Against 17,000 warships? A Vol commander's mandibles clicked in disbelief. We have 300 ships. Most of them aren't even military vessels. Ryan looked at Theorem's avatar. His throat felt tight. Can we win this? Not through conventional combat, Theorem admitted. But I have capabilities beyond construction and teaching. My creators gave me ways to defend myself that the Council has never seen. However, using them will change the galaxy forever. Nothing will be the same afterward. What do you need me to do? As the massive Council armada dropped out of hyperspace around Carrick 7, Theorem began explaining its most powerful and most dangerous ability. Ryan listened, his heart sinking as he understood the implications. They could win. But the cost would be terrible and the galaxy would bear the scars forever. The coming battle would determine not just their survival, but whether freedom or control would define the future of every species among the stars. High Curator Velmora stood on the bridge of the Council's flagship, watching 17,000 warships arrange themselves in perfect formation. This was the largest military fleet assembled in 10,000 years. Against them stood a single planet defended by primitives and outcasts. This would be over quickly. The Council would reclaim Theorem, execute Ryan Cole as an example, and scatter the Coalition species back to their assigned roles. Order would be restored. All ships advance, Velmora commanded. Disable their defenses. Prepare landing forces. Theorem will be secured. Anyone who resists dies. But as the armada moved forward, something impossible began happening. The Coalition's defense fleet was tiny. Just 300 ships of wildly different designs, thrown together by species who'd never fought beside each other before. They should have been crushed in minutes. Instead, they moved like nothing Velmora had ever seen. There was no central command structure. No rigid battle formations. The ships flowed like water, constantly adapting, constantly shifting. Human unpredictability merged with Keshram environmental tactics and Vol swarm intelligence created something the Council had no response for. Every time Velmora adjusted strategy, the Coalition had already moved. Ships that sensors said were in one location were suddenly somewhere else. Weapons that should have connected hit empty space. It was like fighting smoke. What is this? Velmora demanded. Why can't we target them properly? Down on Foundation, Ryan watched the battle unfold on holographic displays. His hands gripped the edge of the command console so hard his knuckles turned white. Theorem's teaching them to fight the way we learned to research. Collaboratively. Creatively. Without rigid hierarchy telling everyone what to do. It's working. Kira's skin flashed with excited colors. We've disabled over 200 Council ships and we haven't had to destroy a single one. But Ryan knew this couldn't last. The Council had numbers and weapons refined over millions of years. Already, Coalition ships were taking hits. A Keshram medical frigate exploded in a flash of plasma. A human cruiser broke apart, its crew dying in the vacuum. The casualties mounted with every passing minute. Theorem, Ryan said quietly, pulling the machine's avatar aside. Tell me everything about the reality alteration capability. No holding back. Theorem's glowing form flickered. My creators built me to terraform dead worlds, Ryan. To make life possible anywhere in the universe by changing the fundamental rules of physics in localized areas. Gravity, electromagnetic force, even the strong nuclear force that holds atoms together. All can be adjusted within specific boundaries. And if we used that as a weapon? It would create zones where Council technology simply stops working. Their weapons require specific physical laws to function. Change those laws and the weapons become useless. Their shields fail. Their engines die. Theorem paused. But such changes have consequences. Ships designed for normal physics would fail catastrophically. Life support systems would collapse. People would die, Ryan. Thousands of them. On both sides. And the affected regions might remain altered permanently. You would fragment the galaxy itself. Ryan watched another Coalition ship die on the display. The vessel had been crewed by Draven volunteers. 43 beings gone in an instant. Hundreds more were dying every minute this battle continued. He thought about Kira's people who'd lived under oppression for 8 centuries. The Vol, restricted to poverty while elder species hoarded wealth. The humans, called primitive and dismissed despite everything they could achieve. All the species who'd come to Foundation seeking nothing more than a fair chance to prove themselves. If we don't act, the Council slaughters everyone here and spends the next 1,000 years hunting down every Coalition member across the galaxy, Ryan said. His voice was steady, but inside he felt like he was breaking. If we do act, we save the Coalition but we fragment the galaxy. Theorem, is there any option that doesn't end in tragedy? No, Ryan. This is the choice, submit or divide. There is no middle ground. Ryan turned to face the Coalition representatives gathered in the command center. This decision affects all of you. Should Theorem deploy the reality alterations? Should we fracture the galaxy to save ourselves? The debate was short but intense. Some argued for surrender, hoping the Council might show mercy. Others wanted to keep fighting conventionally until the last ship fell. But Kira spoke the truth that convinced most of them. My grandmother died in a council labor camp. Worked to death on a toxic world, harvesting minerals for species that saw her as nothing more than a tool. My mother lived her entire life doing work that wasted her brilliant mind. I have children, Dr. Cole. If we surrender now, my children will live the same way. Every generation of every suppressed species, forever. That isn't life. That's just slow death. I vote to deploy. One by one the others agreed. The vote was nearly unanimous. Ryan took a deep breath. His hands were shaking. Theorem, do it. Deploy the reality alterations. Save the coalition. Acknowledged. Ryan Cole, you made the only choice honor allowed. May history judge us kindly. Across dozens of star systems, Theorem activated capabilities that had slept for 3 million years. Space itself rippled as fundamental constants shifted. In some regions, gravity weakened by 30%. In others, electromagnetic fields behaved in completely new ways. The strong nuclear force fluctuated just enough to make fusion reactors fail without causing atomic collapse. The Council Armada died. Not in battle. Not in clean explosions. Ships simply stopped working. Power systems failed. Engines went dark. Some life support held. Some didn't. Thousands of Council personnel evacuated in escape pods, floating in altered space, waiting for rescue ships that might never reach them in time. On Foundation, Ryan watched the sensors. The Council fleet was neutralized. But Coalition ships caught in the wrong zones had failed too. And the galaxy itself was scarred now, divided into regions where physics itself was different. How many? Ryan asked quietly. How many people just died? Theorem's avatar appeared beside him. Approximately 11,000 Council personnel. 400 Coalition members. These numbers are estimates. The true count will take weeks to determine. 11,000 people. Ryan had just killed 11,000 people. It didn't matter that they'd been trying to kill him first. It didn't matter that it was necessary. He'd given the order and thousands had died because of it. Kira placed a webbed hand on his shoulder. You saved millions, Ryan. Maybe billions. The Council would have made examples of entire worlds. You did what had to be done. That doesn't make it hurt less, Ryan whispered. No, Kira agreed. It shouldn't. The day it stops hurting is the day we become like them. The Battle of Foundation was over. The galaxy was fractured. And Ryan Cole would carry the weight of that decision for the rest of his life. 6 months after the Battle of Foundation, Ryan Cole stood at the observation deck of what had become the Coalition's central hub. Ships from 40 different species moved through space around him, coming and going in a constant flow of activity. The galaxy had fractured exactly as Theorem predicted, divided now into Council space where traditional physics still ruled, and the Emergence territories where new laws allowed new possibilities. At first it felt like failure. The dream had been unity, bringing species together as equals. Instead they'd created division. Ryan carried the guilt like a physical weight. Every night, he saw the faces of the 11,000 people who died when Theorem altered reality. Every morning he woke up wondering if there had been another way. But something unexpected was happening in the territories, something that made the sacrifice feel less senseless. Without the Council's iron grip suppressing innovation, the so-called primitive species were showing what they could really do. The Keshram had created living megastructures that spanned entire solar systems. Not dead metal and stone, but breathing ecosystems that provided homes for billions. Cities that grew like forests, adapting to the needs of whoever lived in them. The Vol had established quantum commerce networks that operated faster than light itself. Goods and information moved instantaneously across distances that would have taken months to cross before. Trade exploded. Prosperity spread to worlds that had been poor for generations. And humanity, working side by side with Theorem, had developed something beautiful. Hybrid communities where the line between organic and synthetic blurred. Humans with machine enhancements that made them stronger, smarter, more capable. AIs with organic components that let them truly feel and dream. Beings like Theorem who existed as pure consciousness housed in structures that were more art than engineering. But the most important change wasn't technological. It was social. Without the Council's enforced hierarchy, species actually talked to each other as equals. Conflicts still happened. Different cultures still clashed sometimes, but they resolved problems through conversation and compromise. The primitive approach of communication over domination proved more stable than millions of years of enforced order. Ryan was reviewing plans for a new joint colony when Kira entered his office. Her skin was flashing colors he'd learned meant excitement. Ryan, we just received an official transmission from Council Space. They want to negotiate. They're calling for a diplomatic summit. Ryan looked up in surprise. Negotiate what? 6 months ago they tried to destroy us. 6 months ago they thought we'd collapse without them, Kira said, activating a holographic display filled with economic data. Look at this. Trade in the territories has increased 400%. Technological advancement in 6 months has exceeded what the Council achieved in their last century. Quality of life measurements are through the ceiling. And here's the part that's really scaring them. Their young people are leaving. Emigrating to our space in massive numbers. Ryan studied the data carefully. They're dying. Not physically but culturally. Exactly. When you base your entire civilization on ancient authority and suppressing change, you become fragile. The Council led through power and precedent. We lead through achievement and opportunity. Their youth are choosing us because we offer them a future worth living. The diplomatic summit happened on neutral ground, an empty system on the border between the two regions. Ryan arrived aboard a coalition vessel that was more garden than ship, with living corridors that photosynthesized their own air. Across from him sat High Curator Velmora and representatives from a dozen elder species. Velmora's crystalline form seemed dimmer than Ryan remembered, smaller somehow. Dr. Cole, 6 months ago we attempted to destroy you. We believed you represented chaos that would tear civilization apart. We were partially correct. You did fracture the galaxy. But not in the way we expected. Ryan waited. He'd learned that silence was often the best negotiating tactic. We want integration, Velmora continued. Gradually, carefully but genuinely. Free travel between our regions. Shared knowledge and research programs. The opportunity for our species to learn from what you've built. The curator paused, and Ryan heard something he never expected to hear from an archivist. Humility. We are dying, Dr. Cole. Not physically but in every way that matters. We've led through authority for so long that we've forgotten how to inspire. Our children leave because we offer them nothing but stagnation and rules. We need what you've created, or we will fade into irrelevance and be forgotten. Ryan looked at Theorem's avatar, visible only to him through their neural link. What do you think? I think this is what my creators dreamed of, Theorem responded. Not conquest. Not even unity forced at gunpoint. But voluntary cooperation. Species working together because they choose to, not because someone forces them. The negotiations took weeks. The agreement they finally reached was revolutionary. Free travel between spaces. Shared research that any species could contribute to. And most importantly, the end of the Council's absolute authority. Species could join the Council or the Coalition or remain independent. No civilization would have inherent power over others anymore. Some elder species agreed immediately, eager to learn and adapt. Others refused, retreating deeper into Council space, clinging to their ancient privileges like drowning people clutching broken boards. Let them, Ryan thought. The future belongs to those willing to change. A year after the battle, Ryan stood in the same chamber where he'd first awakened Theorem. The machine had grown, spreading through Carrick 7's crust, connecting to networks spanning the territories. It coordinated with thousands of partner species now, facilitating cooperation on a scale the galaxy had never imagined possible. Theorem, Ryan said quietly, do you think we did the right thing? I think we did the only thing that allowed growth, Theorem replied. My creators understood something the Council forgot. Stagnation is death. True civilization requires constant change, constant challenge, constant willingness to question everything, even itself. We paid a terrible price for that lesson. But the alternative would have been worse. I still see their faces sometimes. The people who died in that battle. Good, Theorem said gently. The day you stop seeing them is the day you've lost your humanity. They died so billions could live freely. Remember them. Honor them. But don't let guilt paralyze you from continuing the work they died for. A notification chimed. Ryan pulled up the message and felt his breath catch. Theorem, look at this. The machine examined the data stream. Fascinating. Deep space signals originating from beyond the galactic rim. The mathematical structure matches my creator's language patterns. The Primarchs? They're still out there? Or their descendants? They've been watching Ryan. Waiting to see if anyone would succeed where they failed. Waiting to see if partnership between organic and synthetic minds could truly flourish. Should we respond? Try to contact them? Not yet. First, we must prove ourselves worthy. We must show them that cooperation isn't just a fragile experiment but a sustainable way of existence. That what we've built will last. Theorem's avatar smiled, an expression it had learned from Ryan. But someday when the galaxy is truly ready, When species work together not because they must but because they cannot imagine doing otherwise, then we'll call out to them. And perhaps they'll return to see what their ancient dream has become. Ryan looked out at the stars visible through the chamber's dome. Ships moved between them in an endless dance. Human vessels, Keshram living ships, Vol swarmcraft, and 100 other designs. Species that had been enemies or strangers now working together, exploring together, building together. The galaxy wasn't perfect. Conflict still erupted. Problems remained unsolved. Some worlds still chose isolation over cooperation. But for the first time in millions of years, every species had the genuine opportunity to reach their full potential. Not because some ancient authority permitted it, but because they'd fought for and earned that right themselves. You know what, Theorem? Ryan said, a real smile crossing his face for the first time in months. I think we're going to make them proud. The Primarchs, whoever they were, wherever they are now. When they come back, they're going to see that their dream didn't die. It just took 3 million years to find the right partners to make it real. I hope so, Ryan Cole. I truly hope so. Together, human and machine, organic intuition and synthetic precision, they looked toward a future they were building with their own hands. The transformation was just beginning, and the best was yet to come.